what I'm looking for on tape is not the things I just talked about. It's can they every once in a while show that they can do that. So do they flash the ability to put their feet in the ground and use power from the ground?
Hey guys, it's your host Brooke Kromer from the Draft Network here with Joe Marino and my favorite coach of all time, Bills offensive line coach Aaron Kromer, aka my dad. Thanks for being here with us.
Great to be here.
Coach, we've had a chance to learn a lot about the offensive line community. We went to the O-Line Mastermind Summit, and one of my favorite discussion points was listening to the different offensive linemen talk about non-negotiables for offensive line play. So if I were to ask you, Coach Kromer, what are your non-negotiables for offensive line play?
Yeah, the number one thing I think for offensive linemen is learn their body position, to be grounded, to be heavy, to have something to push against. So they have to have their feet in the ground to run and pass protect. So that's the number one. And then the number two that is so underrated is using their hands. They have to be very good with their hands, have their feet in the ground, and use their hand for leverage. Those are two things for me.
So as you are involved in looking at some of the college prospects, I know that's part of what you do as a position coach, and you're given maybe a list of players that you're supposed to scout and give feedback on. What are some of those things, your approach to scouting those players, what's gonna make you say, GM, I want to have this guy? What are those things you look for in that college tape?
Yeah, the tough part with college tape is you don't know how they were coached. And you can tell on tape how they were coached. And a lot of times it's not the two things that I'm talking about. You know, they spend a lot of time in recruiting. They do the best job they can of coaching in the minimal amount of time that they have. So they have a lot of plays to teach. They have a lot of things. They don't have as much time as us and as much individual work as we can do. So what I'm looking for on tape is not the things I just talked about. It's can they every once in a while show that they can do that. So do they flash the ability to put their feet in the ground and use power from the ground? Do they flash every once in a while, use their hands, and you can feel the power in their hands? It's not going to be on a consistent basis for the most part. So you want to know, can a guy bend? Can he get his hips underneath him to lift a defender? One of the worst things you can do as an offensive lineman is use momentum and just like try to smash into somebody, because if they're equal with you in the NFL or better than you, you'll have no success. So you're trying to find out if the guy can get under a defender and lift him and run him with using his hips.
Now, it's interesting you talked about momentum, because we spoke about that in February. We had a conversation at the Combine. I guess I'm a little surprised that you didn't say anything about finishing, because whenever I talk to offensive line people, they're like, got to be finishing. Where does that rank for you in importance of something you can identify on tape?
I mean, obviously it's a trait that you are looking for, but there's a lot of guys that can finish in college football, but they really don't have the skills to play in the NFL. The players, when you look at college football, the one thing that you find real quickly is that only a few of those guys on the field are going to make it, or a couple, or one on the field are going to make it to the NFL and have the ability to play in the NFL. So they're playing against a lot of guys that don't have any chance of making it. And so to finish that guy would mean nothing to me. I want to see that, can he generate the things that I was talking about? And then, we can talk about and teach finishing. Obviously that's a trait that if they have all of those other things, it's a bonus. But to just say, hey, I want to see a guy finish, I mean, I don't know how much that tells me.
That's interesting. One thing that I've always found interesting in our conversations is we talked about position flexibility. And you have a really interesting resume of putting guys in spots that a lot of people would say that's not really for them, but there's been a lot of success. I know that you can point to different examples. What's interesting about that is you hear offensive linemen talk about the challenges of flipping from the left side or the right side or going from tackle to guard. What is your take on position flexibility and the challenges that exist with that?
It's an absolute must. If you look at NFL football, you're going to dress 8 linemen, and now they give you the 9th. But for years, it was 8. So you had a backup center, make sure somebody that could snap. And then after that, you had to have flexibility in what you could play. So a lot of times the backup center has to play both guard positions, or a tackle has to be able to play both sides, or guard and tackle. I mean, there's just not enough guys in the team to be able to specify one position. So I believe when they come into training camp as a rookie, I tell them, listen, you're not going to have success for the first 3 months being here. Don't worry about it. Just learn football, learn how to position your body at right tackle, right guard, left tackle. And hey, guess what? I might teach you to snap, because most of you guys are going to have to learn how to snap and play center as well. So as long as they get in that mode of it's all the same techniques, it's all the same way to see the game, they learn faster, the big picture. They don't have success early. They don't. And that's fine. You don't have to have success until these coming days when we have these preseason games. But you talk about, we practiced a month and a half. Then we come here and we practice a month. And so they have plenty of time to move to the different positions and become comfortable in those. If they can't, they usually can't play. So that's how you can find out quickly what kind of natural ability they have and what kind of ability they have to move their bodies in the way you want them to.
So how do you thread that needle between all the talk about muscle memory and a guy, just you would assume that if a player gets a chance to develop at one position, they're really going to probably get those nuances down. How do you thread the needle between developing that but also maintaining that importance of positional flexibility?
So I believe that once you get out of your stance, it's the same position all the way across the line. So let's say you're a right tackle and you're going to block a guy on a run play to the right. And then all of a sudden you're running a play to the left and he's got to block a guy on his left. How much different is that when he lines up at left guard and blocks the guy on the left, when he's play side, and then the next time he blocks a guy to the right? The body position and the ideal of the play are very similar. So that's where I feel like guys limit themselves in their ability to play different positions. The fastest way to get cut is to play one spot.
Yeah, no, we see that all the time. You can't be a one-hole backup, right? That's not a thing in the NFL, right?
So if you have a guy that's played for years and he's this for sure starter, then you don't move that guy. But when they're coming out of college, they need to be able to move around and play different positions and find out what's best for them. If you look around in the last 20 years, like the guys that have been great guards, they played right tackle and left tackle. Over the guys that I've coached, the centers that never snapped the ball in college, centers that moved to guard and tackle. You never know where these guys, tackles that move to center. I've started in the Super Bowl in 2002. It goes way back. And so it's that flexibility, it's that learning curve. Who knows that college coach put him in the right position to start with? Why does that guy have to play that one spot? You're blocking to the left, you're blocking to the right, you're pass protecting to the left, you're pass protecting to the right. And once you convince them that it's all similar body mechanics that you're going to have to perform in a game, then they realize how many spots they can play.
So with all the stuff that we've talked about, you're at that point, right? You're actually Brenke camp very soon here, and you got to figure out who those 5 starters are going to be. It's a challenge that you face every single year. How much do you factor in combinations, right? Guys playing next to each other and how they work together, and just putting all these skill sets together to say, this is the 5. These are the preferred 5 starters for this team.
Yeah, a lot of times it's the 5 best players. So, sometimes it's a combination of 2 guys next to each other, but most of the time, these are the 5 most proficient players we have. So they can perform in a lot of positions naturally, and they've earned the spot because they've gotten moved from left guard to right guard, or left tackle to right tackle to left tackle, and they've had success. And so they're the 5. And then you're trying to find out who the backups are. And the backups are going to be the same way. If they can play multiple positions and move and have a feel for the game, it's easy to see who the better guys are.
What's interesting about some of the conversations that we've had, and even Mrs. Kromer brought this up today, I was having lunch with her, is the unique mindset that you have in coaching an offensive line unit, but not necessarily as much focusing on the unit as it is tailoring your style to each individual player and what's going to work for them. What goes into that philosophy, and how do you apply that?
Well, if you think, like if you and I lined up next to each other, you and I are going to move differently. So you might be quicker than me. I might be able to reach guys further away. You might bend better than me. So every player has to be coached differently. I can't ask you to do the same thing I'm asking Brooke to do. We have to have different ways of going about it because you might not be able to move your body in the same way as another player. So we are trying to get the same thing. We are going to get the same thing done, but there's certain people that can do it one way and other people that have to do it another way. And it's all on body mechanical movement and their positives and their negatives of what they can do. Slow guys need to play slow and fast guys need to play fast. Don't ask a fast guy to play slow or a slow guy to play fast, because it won't work.
Well, that's actually something that Deion Dawkins told me today when we were talking to him, that he really appreciates that you do put in the time to figure out, okay, we're going to coach him completely differently. And so it shows, your players are realizing it. So really cool that I know that you focus on that. So cool to see that the players appreciate it too. And I feel like we just went back to O-line mastermind. We had a whole little...
I can't get enough of it.
We can't get enough. And I'm glad that we're focusing on the trenches here at the Draft Network, because it is just making my heart happy. So thank you for being with us. And I know you're busy at camp, so love you. And thanks for being on our show.
Anytime, Brooke. Love you.